Leader of the National Assembly, Amos Kimunya, who's also Kipipiri Member of Parliament, still here with us in studio. Thanks for staying with us. I want to read a tweet here from Elijah Terochich, who says, the National Assembly's majority leader is saying that some people are receiving instructions to act in a certain manner in Parliament. He's also on record saying that they must pass the bill into law before the end of the month. Could he confirm that they are also not receiving instructions from other quarters? Is your side receiving instructions as well?
Well, it's my bill, right? I'm the sponsor of the bill.
So you're the one giving instructions?
It's in my interest to have the bill passed, okay? Because I believe it's good for the Kenyan people. And it's my responsibility to marshal as much support as possible from the National Assembly in total to have the bill passed. So when I now find a whole group opposing the bill, not because of the merits or demerits of clauses, but because of some hard behavior, then you start looking at, what has happened. And you discover people have been called, people have been lobbied, they've been told to do whatever they need to do to stop. You look at the similarity between the amendments that have been given, right? All the amendments have come from the UDA wing of Parliament, if you like. Apart from the amendments by myself and by the chair of the Jailer Committee. All the other amendments have come from the UDA associated members of Parliament, because there's only one member of Parliament anyway for UDA, which is the member for Kiamba. But there are others who lean towards UDA. And those are the ones who have brought amendments to almost about every clause. When you look at those amendments, and even the way they are, it's like there's a whole group that sat together and said, you bring these three amendments as a group, so that if one of you doesn't turn up, the other one will do it. So you can see some teamwork. It's some synchronized, orchestrated way of filibustering.
Majority leader.
But beyond that, we also know, from talking to them, that they fear that they are being watched, not just by their master, but also by the ground. That if you don't support your master, who also said, oppose the bill, is on record, and said this bill is being brought in by conmen.
You're referencing Deputy President William Ruto?
Yes.
Yes.
He said this bill is being brought to Parliament by conmen who wants to bring Ukora into Parliament to the bill. I'm certainly not a conman. I'm the sponsor of the bill. The president is not a conman. He chaired cabinet, the cabinet that approved the bill that came to me. The members of cabinet, who are his colleagues in cabinet, certainly can't be conmen. And the deputy president being a member of cabinet, unless he's admitting he's a conman, because it was passed by cabinet, where he's a member of cabinet.
What I'm struggling to understand this evening, and what many Kenyans are struggling to understand, Majority Leader, is why the rush?
No, there's no rush. This bill did not start, the whole development of this bill started in 2017, following immediately after the elections. Lessons are learned during the elections in terms of how did the party nominations take place around that time. How was the dispute resolution on around the 2017 elections done? So various consultations started through the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties and the Political Parties Tribunal, then also the Kenya Law Reform Commission, the Attorney General's Office, and all the various people who are involved in, including the Center for Multi-Party Democracy, people who are involved in ensuring that political parties thrive in this country. So it started in 2017, and there was caucuses that were started, working groups that were started, meetings in Nakuru, meetings in Naivasha, meetings in Mombasa, bringing together all the various stakeholders. And that culminated in a bill last year. Then since then, I've also consulted heavily with the different political players. But the fact that...
You recall members from Christmas break?
Oh, yes.
Special sitting?
Because it was now becoming a point that you cannot continue consulting on a bill since from 2017. It's now 2021. Then, it was as of last month. If this bill does not get approved by Parliament before February, it will be on no use for this electoral cycle. Then it might as well be introduced in 2022 or 2023. So it was important.
Because it says coalitions must be formed 6 months before
That's the proposal in there. There is some
Which
amendment.
some say, why not make it 3 months? Then you don't have to rush it. Go ahead.
No, it's not. We're not rushing the bill just because of that. But for me, I had a timeline that any bill that does not get processed in Parliament between now and end of February, right, is unlikely to be processed because members who have gone campaigning. So for me, it's not just this particular one. There's, you must have heard the chairman of IEBC.
I was about to ask you about that.
Talking about changes that are required in the electoral law.
Yes.
And I've been asking, can I have this within the framework of a bill so we can process it? We also have to do the budget policy statement. We also have to do the budget for next year. And if you don't do these things by February, right, it will be very difficult to actually get members into Parliament. So first of all, the rush is to take the window that we have available of when you can have Parliament working efficiently. 2, on this particular one, because it affects elections, it means that people need to have certainty and predictability. If nominations are going to take place in April, you need to know the law that will be in application by then before you even decide you're vying. If, like as proposed, we're going to use party registers, political parties need to have developed those party registers to use in the nomination, which is what they should be doing anyway, right? And I'm sure most of the political parties have already traded up their registers. But they need to know what are the timeframes so that come end of this month, people should be knowing, I want to vie in Kipipiri, I will be vying on this party has a register, I'm on this register, and this is how the rules are. That information needs to be the people, both candidates and my supporters, by latest sometime in end of January or February. So that's why we are rushing this bill. Not the development of the bill. It's been developed since 2017.
Okay.
Yeah? And some of those things have also come from court rulings. If you remember, we had the issue about sharing of political money, parties' funds.
Yes, we did. Yes.
And our political parties forum went to court. And the registrar, of course, suing the registrar, and the issue became, what do you define as a political party? The court could not even rule on that. The Court of Appeal could not determine what a political party is, because they say that was supposed to be defined by Parliament, and that power was given to Parliament in Article 92 of the Constitution to define what a political party is. But if you look at Article, the Political Parties Act, number 11 of 2011, you'll find it defines a political party as an association as envisaged in Article 260 of the Constitution. Now, you go to Article 260 of the Constitution to look for the definition, and what it tells you is an association as envisaged in Chapter 7 of the Constitution. Now, you go to Chapter 7, and you'll find it just basically says, this is what a political party, the attributes of a political party, and then says Parliament will set up the legislation to do it. So one of the things that became very clear is there was no definition of political party. And this is one of the things that this bill is doing.
And yet, we have had coalitions set up in the past, 2013 Jubilee Coalition, 2013 CORD Coalition, 2017 NASA Coalition. If what we're seeing in Parliament is not resolved, why can't we just carry on with the old model? Because
the old models could only succeed up to a certain point, but they fell short. For example, let's not go far back to 2013. Let's just look at 2017, NASA Coalition. Okay, it was formed as a coalition, but because the law does not recognize the coalition as a political party, they could not sponsor candidates as NASA. So the presidential candidate was sponsored through ODM. Okay, so ODM is a political party, and they rightfully then claimed that all the votes, all the presidential votes, were attributable to the presidential candidate of ODM. So who shares the money for the presidential votes, right? How do you determine that the people who voted for the ODM president, so many of them were WAPA or other parties? Huh? Now, those are the kind of things we are trying to avoid, those disputes, so that if people decide to go to a coalition, let that coalition be recognized as a political party. so that any benefits accruing to that party, including funds, including party positions, can now be shared within the framework of that agreement.
Majority Leader, let me ask you this.
And that is being accepted. Even the people who are opposing are now saying, yes, if we ever get into a coalition, we actually need this protection, right? Because you can't trust politicians. I mean...
You sit here today as the only politician in the room and you say, don't trust us.
You know, in terms of those agreements that politicians make, we've seen them. We've seen in 2002. We've seen in 2007. We've seen in 2013. We've seen in 2017. How many more cycles do we want before we now realize that the earlier we formalize these agreements within the law, the better? Now, coalitions continue being allowed. I think this is also one of the other mischief that people are being told, that after this law, coalitions will not be allowed. Nobody has touched the law to do with coalitions. Coalitions before or coalitions after elections, yeah? That continue. All we are basically saying, where 2 or 3 parties decide to come together and sponsor a joint candidate or joint candidates, right? Let that framework be recognized in law so that we don't have a situation where we are saying, for example, in NAC, that there was some meeting in New Stanley that had an MOU that was then trashed, or there was another one that happened. Let's get these things in law so that even as wananchi go voting for one coalition or another, they know that their vote will count and is protected by law. It's not just about the leaders.
Let me interrupt you because I've got a few more questions to go through and our time is almost up. Let me ask you a question that's being sent by a person who will probably be on the floor of the House tomorrow, Kimani Ichung'wah, Member of Parliament. He's saying, ask Kimunya, did he listen to Martha Karua when she was asking why the rush? Why was there no public participation? That's from a man you're trying to convince to support you tomorrow in Parliament.
If he was listening to me, perhaps he would have now understood.
He's listening now. Go ahead.
There has been a lot of public participation between 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021. And all that's documented, all the workshops that have taken place, including members of parliament, including the political parties themselves, and I'm sure even the Honorable Mother Karua may have been involved, or Hapadum may have been involved. So the rush, as I'm saying, is I want to make sure that if this law is going to be of any use to the elections of 2022, we must pass it now or forever, forget it, and wait for a new cycle in 2023. Because we don't have much of a window in terms of political laws. You say it's your bill, others say it's the handshake bill. No, I'm the sponsor of the bill from that angle. How do you respond to those who say it's not your bill, it's the handshake bill, you're simply the face of it? The bill will benefit many people. It will benefit individual members of parliament who will now not be expelled by their political parties without following due process, right? It also helps small parties that can come together now into a coalition so that they can be able to forget about even being swallowed by bigger parties. But small parties within a region could also come together and now within the framework of a coalition, even sponsor candidates at the national level where they also concentrate on local issues, right? Which is what happens globally. Now, at the bigger boys level, if Azimio... About Jubilee and ODM, Azimio. If Azimio takes advantage of this bill, right, to now say we are going to have a coalition anyway, but now we have a law that will allow us to relate with the full protection of the law, so be it. And I'm sure UDA are also following suit. I've heard them talking now about possible coalitions. And they have now realized this law is good for them. So this law is good for everyone. It's not being designed with anyone in mind. But like every change that comes, change will be resisted. But there will always be the early adopters along the continuum and the laggards, right, at the end. Now, the early adopters take advantage of it and run with it. The laggards might come back and find, oh, we were too late, yeah? Because the first mover have gotten the full advantage of first mover advantage. So what I would like to tell everyone is look at what is in the law. Is there anything harmful to any of these configurations? And we've looked at it and there's nothing harmful. Is there anything beneficial? If there's something beneficial, take advantage of it and run. Two issues that opponents of the bill cite. One, the powers that will be given to the Registrar of Political Parties.
should the bill become law? There are concerns that the holder of that office then becomes all-powerful, has the decision to decide which coalitions, get started quickly, which ones could be delayed.
No.
The IBC
the powers of the registrar of political parties is already in the Principal Act, Act number 11 of 2011. That office is not being created now. All we are doing is adding additional functions, right, of what she will also be doing, right? So, but the core functions of registering parties or deciding whether to accept a name or not, that's already happening. She's been registering parties. She's done 62 or 72. She's also deregistered some. So, so we are not creating an office. I know people like Honorable Kimunya Shungo had preferred that we perhaps should have a board instead of
and they brought
office.
That amendment,
and it's a good idea, and I accepted, and I told him it's a brilliant idea, but it's come too late because it was never subjected to public participation. And I've told him, let's pack it probably in 2022 after the new parliament. We can look at it and with lots of consultation, so that even the manner of how do you select the board members then becomes that it doesn't cause trouble to the board, but becomes something that can be used. But by and large, let me say that if you look at the clauses, clause by clause, the benefit it's accruing to the parties, the benefits accruing to the members far outweigh the risks. Now, I've also listened to people in terms of the risks they are talking of, that aren't we creating a registrar who can misbehave?
Imperial, right? All-powerful is the term they're using.
Not even all-powerful. Even if you remove the powers and only give one power, but the person could misuse. So within the law, then you look at, is there a chance here for mischief by a rogue registrar, right? Granted, we have a good registrar, but you're not guaranteed that the good registrar will be there forever. And that's the way I look at it myself. That if we had a rogue registrar, what the worst that registrar can do? And I've interrogated each of those clauses where the registrar has powers that could be misused, and we have now brought in some amendments. For example, in 34C, where we are saying the registrar will have powers through this electronic system, the new IT system, will have powers to deregister people or amend ABCD. But there was a missing link, which was also brought out by as part of this consultation, that yes, how do the parties know that a change has taken place? So I'll be bringing an amendment to say, yes, once the registrar has made an amendment, the registrar will have to notify the political party. And when you're notified, then you take your normal relief in terms of if you're not satisfied, you have the right of appeal. That's already in the law. So basically, what I'm looking at is, and the discussion I've been having with people, is let's not just look at discussion from a pedestrian perspective. Let's look at this clause is giving certain power to the registrar. What is the worst that the registrar can do with those powers? Can we ring-fence that action within the law? Okay. All right? Yes. And on one of the things in clause 25, for example, which was saying the registrar will make regulations to conduct party nominations. I got convinced from discussion with people that this is very dangerous. So I said, since within the law, the new 38, whatever, A, B, C, D, we are setting out the procedure, then we don't need to give this power to a registrar we don't know, who makes some regulations that won't need to be passed quickly through a committee. In a nutshell, right? You're saying you've done your best to address the challenges raised on this. Address. And if anyone still feels that there is a clause that can be harmful, I'm willing to listen. Even tonight? Even tonight. Majority Leader, let me read you feedback from Gadoni Wamushomba, woman rep Kiambu. She's saying, ask Kimunya how many people submitted memoranda, when did they present them to JLAC, when was public participation done, and who was invited? She goes on to say, I believe JLAC invited the registrar of political parties, the chairman of the party tribunal, and treasury. Are they the only stakeholders, or are they the owners of the bill? That's her question this evening. Like I think probably she wasn't listening when I were talking about it. But like I said, this bill, the development of this bill started in 2017. about every political party has been involved. Even as of this today, I was still in consultation with some of the political parties who are saying, yes, we like it, but can you look at this for us? And if members want, I would be happy to share with them who has appeared. The caucuses.
Maybe that's where you should begin tomorrow. Yeah? Go ahead. Yes.
And the Speaker did rule, first of all, the Speaker in Parliament ruled that there was adequate public participation. Indeed, this is the only bill where the window for receiving memoranda was open for 14 days. Usually it's 7 days, right? And if people are told to send memoranda and they don't, you can't then say there was no public participation. But besides that, there were those who actually came, the very core people who did come. And most of the political parties said, we don't want to send memoranda because we already participated in the development of the bill anyway. The Solicitor General's office, the State Law Office, basically, let's put it that way, participated. The Law Reform Commission, the several caucuses that were set up, the Registrar's Office, the Dispute Tribunal. I know Jubilee participated, and I'm sure, I know ODM participated, and I'm sure at some point UDA may have participated. Yeah? Through some fora or between 2017
Finally, in the interest of time, there are viewers who asked this evening, you could have fast-tracked this thing in September. You could have fast-tracked it in June. What were you waiting for?
In fact, I started,
or something else?
I started when I got wind that this bill is coming. I remember there was a similar bill that had been brought into Parliament by Senator Mwaura, right?
Isaac Mwaura.
And the issues within Senator Mwaura's bill were then taken into this, because it's easier to process a bill through the National Assembly than the other way around, especially when it involves money and all that. Huh? So, and then some of these issues have also been included in a bill by Honorable Kioni through his CIOC committee on actualizing the Article 100 of the Constitution. So it's not new, right? And why not September? Indeed, I started agitating for completion of this bill around about October and said, now we need all the bills that are coming, that are required for next year. I need to have them published by a certain period, not later than November, so we can process it in not later than January. Now, this bill, unfortunately, affects counties, so it will have to go through Senate. So time becomes of essence from that perspective, that even as we finish it in January, we need to create some time for it also to be processed in Senate. And that's why we had to interrupt the program of members of Parliament, so that we have adequate time to clear it within the National Assembly, which we hoped was only going to be one day, the 29th. In the event, we now know that it could either be 3 days, it could either be another 5 days next week, depending on the filibustering that takes place. But if members see the bill for what it is, then we could finish this bill by tomorrow morning. And by next week, it could be in the Senate. So that by end of the month, it will be law, and every member of Parliament, every member of the County Assembly, every aspirant will know this is the law under which I will be operating when going for the elections of 2022.
And you don't see
that predictability we need.
And you don't see the substantive issues that have been raised about the whole process, including public participation, could easily make for a case in court that would undo everything that
No, the public participation has already been ruled, and there's adequate documentation to show the veracity and magnitude of public participation.
But if it moves to court, nevertheless?
Now, if people move to court, of course, people can move to court for any reason, okay? And it's up to them to now convince the court that there's a way they have been disadvantaged through the passage of this bill. But I would actually find it very difficult. I talked to so many lawyers and so many people in the different configurations, including people in court, asking, is there anything in this bill that you can see that really disadvantages any aspirant or any political party? And they say, this can only be of benefit to them. So what relief would you actually be going to court to seek on a bill that is saying you cannot be chased away from a party without being due process? On one that tells you that a political party is the one to determine who participates in its nominations, rather than the current situation where we have now, where you find Party A is having its nominations, and Party B, because they want to influence those results, sends its members, to come and nominate or ensure the win is the weakest candidate of Party A. That's what happens.
Okay. That's
now,
a fair,
how do we
that's a fair point
protect
that
parties from that?
Okay. Majority Leader, when viewers have asked this, is there need for extra security tomorrow?
No, Parliament has adequate security.
Okay.
And I do hope we do not need to use that security, because members of Parliament should behave true to their calling in the public interest. And remember that we are always for looking for the welfare of society and the just government of the people. That's our clarion call.
Okay.
For the welfare of society and the just government of the people. And anything we do, that should be the standard we should be looked at.
Okay. Right. My last question to you, which is on a personal note, 2022 is finally, well, not finally here. We've talked about it for a long time, and here we are. Do you still want to be an MP for Kipipiri after the next election, or are you aspiring or aiming elsewhere?
Now, you see, the other options have been rather closed by partly because of where I come from. So I can't vie for president because I'm also conscious of the fact that Kenyans would look at me from a selfish point of view, that why the Kikuyus only, So when I look at what else I need to do to help the growth of democracy and the growth of institutions in this country, I find that another term in Parliament is what I need to mentor young and upcoming members of Parliament.
So you will be defending your seat?
I'll be defending my seat in Kipipiri, and I've explained to the people of Kipipiri, and I do hope that I'll continue even in the same position I'm in, so I can help nurture.
We won't hear you listening to the ground anytime soon, like some who had Jubilee supporters listen to the ground and changed?
I've been listening to the ground.
What is it saying?
But for me, I've also been talking to the ground. And together, we are shaping the destiny of Kipipiri together.
You're having
we are also
a dialogue with the ground.
We are also looking at what are the best options for Kenya. In whose hands are we safe? Between the various candidates who are coming. And we are evaluating now. The good thing is we now have a choice of candidates. It's not like 10, 20. If you even look at the top 4, top 3, right? You can start looking at an analysis from what is this one offering in terms of the issues, in terms of where we're going, or what is this one offering, rather than just looking at there's one person running without followers or without competition, what was happening before. And when the conversation now starts changing in terms of the issues, and I'm very glad that for once we don't have a strong, because we still have a few from Mount Kenya, we don't have a main horse from Mount Kenya, so that we can remove 7 million votes, which is a big ethnic group. We remove the ethnicity from these campaigns. And now start looking at, you have these two candidates, what have they got to offer? What are the economic models? What are their manifestos like? And I'm waiting for that time when we launch these manifestos. Then we can have these discussions here and tear them into pieces and say, this one is a joker, this one is serious, right? And the people, that's when the people now, the ground, will actually be talking.
Majority Leader, we'll have you back on then. Thank you so much for your time this evening. I know you have a busy day tomorrow. Kenyans are watching. We hope they'll not be disappointed.
I'm sure they will not be disappointed, and I will want to make a final appeal to my members of Parliament.
Briefly, go ahead, and
please,
here's the camera.
Please,
what was your message?
Please, members of Parliament, the 349 of you, of us, let's remember that Kenyans are waiting, Kenyans are watching us, Kenyans are suffering, and let's be led by how do we ameliorate that ordinary pain of the ordinary Kenyan through good legislation that will help them in the election of their leaders for next year. And let's look at the issues and avoid the side shows.
Majority Leader, thank you so much for your time this evening. Kipipiri MP, Majority Leader Amos Kimunya, very interesting discussion that we've had. I tried to read as much feedback as I could, but there's so much on this, so we'll probably have to stretch the topic in other forums as well over the next couple of days. Parliament, special sitting, 3 days. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., live on Citizen TV and on our digital platforms as well. You will not miss any of the proceedings there if you follow any of those platforms. And of course, we'll be live on this channel, Inoro and Ramogi TV as well. And that's where we wrap up Newsnight. Thanks so much for tuning in for this first edition of Newsnight in 2022. One of many as we keep tabs on what's happening on the political scene and help you to make sense of them. So please tune in every Tuesday, 9 p.m. right here on the program. My name is Wahiga Mwaura. On behalf of the whole team that's made this broadcast possible this evening and our sign language interpreter, Wilson Mushora, thank you for joining us. Have a good night. Stay safe. We'll see you soon. Goodbye.